I've got 7:01 on 6 November 2024, and I open the Town of West Newbury Planning Board meeting. The first item on the agenda is scheduled to start at 7:15. I'll go ahead and mention 125 River Road. Katrina, you might as well make a public update about that.
Sure. So 125 River Road was the Eagle Nest definitive subdivision. The board has filed their decision with the town clerk, and what they're holding off on is signing the definitive subdivision plan. So those have not been signed yet. And we were waiting for the applicant to file a homeowners association covenant, road maintenance covenant. He had his stormwater permit approved by the Board of Health, and he had to post some kind of security. And I had explained to him that by state law, the applicant is able to choose what type of surety they want. And at first he said, well, a covenant would be great. And so we talked about the covenant at length. A note would have to be put on the plan, and something would have to be recorded at the registry saying that he cannot build on or sell any of the lots until the roadway is completely done and the planning board signs off. However, just 2 days ago, he emailed me and let me know that he has decided on an insurance bond. And I think that may make the board happier anyway. I think they would rather see a bond than a covenant. He isn't ready with it though, so he will submit it probably sometime next week, hopefully before the next meeting. And so there's really nothing the board can do at this meeting. If he had everything in order, the board could say, okay, we're ready to sign the plan, and then you'd all come in and sign it, but we're not ready yet.
Oh, interesting.
Is anyone here for the 125 River Road Eagle Nest subdivision? Yeah, I don't think anyone is even here for it.
Well, it's good to hear about his sticking with the bond. I'm pleased to hear that.
And
Now,
I think the board may want to, we may want to discuss that some other meeting, because I wasn't aware of the board's wish. And I don't know how the board feels about security, but I do know state law allows the applicant to choose what type of surety to post, and they get to choose the first time. If they decide to change that type of surety halfway through building the subdivision, then the town gets to choose what type of surety. They can say no to certain types of surety. And that's what I've learned in my career as a planner.
very good. Thank you for that. And then if I look a little distracted, it's because I'm thinking about our next item that we have a few minutes to take up, and that's the approval not required, or ANR, at 148 Crane. 148 Crane Neck Street in West Newbury.
No,
No,
551 Main Street.
Oh. Forgive me.
Have we seen plans for this yet?
591 Main.
Yeah, it's in the packet.
Boy, the packet is very big.
it's
It's
enormous.
hard
Yes.
to find.
Repeating it, I think it's pretty near the beginning. Oh, maybe not, maybe not.
No, it's after
A lot
all,
of
all of the,
repetitive
the
and
Middle
new
Street
information. Yeah, for the other one.
Gosh.
Okay.
you
I
got a
think
lot
I
of
could
these.
share my screen if you wanted me to.
Why don't you go ahead and do that?
Please.
I've added a big, large screen to my little laptop, so it's easier for me to
Oh,
share
good.
things now.
great.
It's much easier.
Can everyone see that?
Yes.
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 Yeah, could you make it just a tad bigger,
I
if we don't lose
Yeah.
anything?
2 tabs, 3 tabs. Yeah.
Wait.
That's better.
Oh, that's not bigger. There we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Still a little hard to read though.
So
Whoa. Is that good?
Yeah, we're getting there.
And so would you like me to explain what they're doing here?
Yes, please.
Okay,
well,
so
is there anybody here for the applicant, engineer or whatnot,
Homeowner or somebody?
Libby?
homeowner? There's
is it
usually
here?
Usually
Someone
somebody
represents
is
it.
here for that, and I'm trying to play with my screen so that I can see the whole crowd here.
Was
See,
there an Ed? Because Libby's husband is Ed. I thought I saw an Ed.
I'm not seeing anybody.
That's kind of odd.
Maybe
Yeah,
for
I
the
don't see
surveyor? I wasn't familiar with the surveyor name. Could be somebody who's here.
Well,
Station, but
actually, Katrina, if you wouldn't mind, let me see if I can share the screen here and zoom in and out on a couple of things here.
Okay, I will stop sharing then.
Sure. But be ready to pull it back in case I get
Okay.
myself into a tizzy. This.
mhm.
There we go. Okay, so we're talking about Main Street, and I don't like it when locust maps have north facing down.
No, but it makes it oriented the same way as the plan, so.
Yeah.
Yes, well, I don't like plans that way either. Anyway, here's Coffin Street and here's Main Street. And you can just see a little bit of Mill Pond. So you're probably familiar with this. It's as you're heading down, as you're heading east towards Newburyport, it's on the right.
Mhm.
And this is the parcel. And they plan on adding these lines. They've already set iron rods. And do you remember this house? It's the house where they
Yes.
added on the addition. It's at a
Yeah.
strange angle.
It
Yep.
was originally Colonel Rowe's house, and
Yes,
then
that's the
Libby
one.
and Ed bought it and added a big angled addition. It's mustard color.
That's, yes, I got it. Okay,
For the
thank you.
house.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. So what they want to do here is split off a parcel A, which would be 1 acre with 150 feet of frontage.
And is that conforming with zoning? It's C zoning, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does conform.
And I did sit down with the applicant and went through every single requirement that the board had for approval not required plans, and it does look like it meets all of the requirements.
Mhm.
You don't have to do a 200-foot circle on a 100-foot wide lot
This is
to,
an A&R. This is an A&R. I wondered about the access over the frontage. When I drove by there, I didn't stop.
Hmm.
It looks like it kind of drops off a little bit, but
Mm.
I
Yeah,
mean, they have a
that's,
they have a driveway into their lot, so there must be a way to, I don't know. Did you see that?
I think the access is there. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stop sharing real quick. And I'm just going to go to,
Yeah, I think several of the lots along that section of the road have rather, they have an angle
Yeah.
down into,
Yeah,
you
there
know,
might be that, or there might be just filling to make yourself a driveway.
I
a
suspect,
ranch
yeah.
Driveway, yeah. But I
Let me-
think
Ray's
it
probably gonna do
shows
Google Street View, right?
he
that's
is.
right, that's right.
Now, there may be a stone wall there, and that would be another topic
It
for
isn't
another
a-
day,
So
right?
this
I
is
believe
the
Route
house.
113 is not a scenic road, though.
Good point, state
Is
road.
it? It's a state road, so it's not scenic? Okay, I thought every road in town was, but I guess that is an exception.
Except we
Except
would have made
113, you're
113
right.
if we could have, but we're not
Good
allowed to.
catch. Good catch, Katrina.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
isn't showing trees on it, and so I had to make sure.
Mhm,
Right, so here's the house, right?
mhm.
yeah.
And so, yeah, there's the addition. And then this would be,
Okay,
Oh, and there's the
Yeah.
stone wall.
yeah,
Okay.
there's the stone wall.
Excuse me.
Well,
but you can see that it's not any sort of precipitous
not-
drop off and it's
Not
not,
dramatic, it's just gonna have
Right.
to be dealt with.
right.
yeah.
And then the other issue we bounced into over time are wetlands.
Right?
But it's obviously, it's not wet. So there you go.
Mhm.
Well, arguably, if you're 200 feet from the edge of the pond, you fall within riparian zone or buffer zone or BBW. It would be, were there plans filed for had anybody looked at it from a wetland standpoint yet?
So they're
That's
they're
not-
not development plans. All they're asking for is permission to create a
Right.
lot and to record it at the registry of deed. They're not asking permission to build anything on the lot.
Okay. all
Right, we're making no, you know, commitment to the buildability of the lot, we're just creating the lot.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And it's frontage and access. That's basically what we have to
Okay.
decide on.
An area.
And it seems to have
Yeah,
those.
it seems to meet the
And
criteria.
Well-
occasionally, yeah, since this is an A&R, I was gonna say notes about not a buildable lot, but that's not for this.
Now, I did hear from one member that they would prefer to see a zoning table with the setbacks, et cetera, on the plan. Your rules don't require that right now, but if that's something that the board would like to see in the future, we could work to add that to our rules.
I
Yeah, that
don't
was me. That,
see how
you know,
that's
yeah, it
needed.
just makes it more self-evident, that it complies with the,
Yeah, we've
zoning
actually,
ordinance.
you're right, Tim. On the last one, we asked them to add that.
Right, because depending on the zoning district, the area and frontage are different, so, yeah.
And if I had known that before sitting down with them, I could have asked that and they probably would have added it, but I sat down with them, went through the rules, and they did meet all of your requirements.
Mhm. Well, that's a to-do list item to make our rules
Yeah.
conform with our practice.
Yeah, and also, I mean, yeah. I was gonna say, it is stamped and everything as it needs to be, so these numbers should be good.
Something was the matter. Now it's good.
Then, I'm wondering if, Ann, you do the honors?
Yes, indeed. I move that the board endorse this plan as one not requiring approval under the subdivision control law.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, Ray Cook, aye.
And Bardine, aye.
Tim Cronin, I.
Deb Hamilton, I.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Very good. Thank you, everybody.
That was easy.
Gee, I'm so
Well-
sorry Ted wasn't here to hear our language.
Yeah.
What was the
yeah, we-
recording?
Oh, there's
That's
the
true.
recording, you're right.
Well, this brings us to 7:15, and so I'm going to go to our agenda item 1, which is the continued public hearing of 0 Middle Street, which is a special permit for reduced frontage lot and scenic roads application. Just for people in the audience that are listening, these are 2 different types of special permits, but we can take them at the same time, and that's what we're doing now. If I say Counselor Mead, am I making some sort of faux pas, or is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. You can also say Lisa. That would also be just fine. So,
I don't know, though. I kind of like titles, and you worked hard.
well,
for
you
that
could do
one.
counselor professor if you like.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
There you go.
All right, all right.
Okay.
Good, there you go.
So Counselor, would you care to update the planning board?
Sure, thank you. And just for a bookkeeping point of view, my record shows that Ms. Bardine and Ms. Hamilton were not at the last meeting, and I just want to know that they watched the video and signed the
Yeah,
affidavit.
in fact, if
Yes.
I may interrupt, Ann,
Remember?
Yes, I had emailed Ray earlier and asked to be recognized at the beginning of the hearing to affirm that I did watch and listen to the recording of the meeting and that I will be participating as a voting member.
Thank you.
Okay.
I, on the other hand, prefer to recuse myself from this hearing. I received an abutter letter. My property is within 400 feet of the subject property, and I might choose to speak as a neighbor. but will not participate in the discussion with the board or vote.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that. Just taking care of those.
And one more note about I keep on to say auxiliary member. And that's
Associate.
not
Associate?
associate member. Our associate member is not here tonight, but by the rules, Katrina O'Leary, our town planner, sent me some information on that. And in this situation where we have a member voluntarily recusing herself, not as a contiguous abutter, but as an interested party. In any case, when somebody recuses themselves, the associate member can participate and vote. Now, he's not here tonight, but as is true with all such meetings, he can bring himself up to speed should the vote occur at a later date.
Okay.
All right, Counselor, back to you.
Thank you very much. And so if we could have my colleague Ben Roberts share his screen, that would be fabulous.
Good by me.
And I am Lisa Mead, Tellerman Costa, 30 Green Street in Newburyport, on behalf of the
These
the
people
applicant.
want to reduce their frontage or a special permit.
Maybe we can, do we have the ability to mute the iPhone? Katrina, since you're the since you started the meeting, you might have that power.
Okay.
And you want me to mute someone?
The iPhone. Of course, the participant that's listed.
Okay. I'll try again. Lisa Mead, Tellerman Costa, 30 Green Street in Newburyport, on behalf of the applicant, Ellen Thurlow, who's the trustee of the trust. With me this evening is Eric Botterman from Millennium Engineering, who's the engineer on the project, as well as my colleague, Ben Roberts. Next slide, Ben, please. As you know, from the last time we presented this, we presented the whole package, including how we believe that we complied with your special permit criteria for both scenic roadways as well as the reduced frontage lot. There was some discussion at the last meeting, and we came back with a number of things for you, which I'll go through. One, a corrected draft easement that had the numbers of the lots reversed because we reversed the numbers from the Concom plan to the site plan. We took a look at another reduced frontage lot group close to here on Indian Hill, which I want to present to you. We took a look at some of the other setbacks along Middle Street because there was some discussion with the board members how they thought that these were rather unusually recessed houses on these lots. We also put together a couple of concept plans showing possible subdivisions, which we believe that the reduced frontage lots are preferable to. And then we did provide the board with a landscape plan as well, and I have a colored one to show on this presentation. Next slide, please. So what I want to say to you is that we believe that these are similar layouts to the other reduced frontage lot that's around the corner on Indian Hill, but there is greater front yard setbacks on those reduced frontage lots, and that was from a 2003 approved reduced frontage lot A&R. So next slide, please. So our property in question is in the green at 0 Middle Street here on the left-hand side of your screen. And then over there on Indian Hill, you see the reduced frontage lot A&R plan that was approved. If you go to the next slide, Ben. And here you can see there's 107 feet of frontage on one of the reduced frontage lots at the Indian Hill plan, and 117 feet on the other lot. Our lot includes 102 and 100 feet of frontage, so they're pretty close to the ones that were on Indian Hill. Next slide, please. And then you can see on the Indian Hill proposal or actual completion, the houses are set back 412 feet plus, and the other house is set back 592 feet. The proposal that we're proposing tonight, the houses are set back 286 feet and 278 feet. So really less than half, or more than half on one instance and almost exactly half on the other. So we think that our houses are obviously closer to the road, similar to what the boards was discussing. Next slide, please. And then the question is, what about other lots on Middle Street? You know, is this consistent with the neighborhood, so to speak, to have these houses back 286 and 278 feet? Well, in fact, there are 4 other homes not too far away on Middle Street. We'll show you shortly. One is 610 feet from the street. One's 424 feet from the street. One's 353 feet from the street. And one is 345 feet from the street. Again, our lot includes homes that are 286 and 278 feet from the street. Next slide, please. So here are the lots that we compared it to. You can see the property in question in front of you tonight, and then the red dots on where the other homes are located that we did as a comparison. And next slide, please. And so here are the 2 lots closest. You can see 610 feet, 423 feet, which are significantly more than what we're proposing. And those are to the right of this property that's being proposed. You can see Stewart Street on the bottom of the plan there. Next slide, please. And then on the opposite side, you've got 352 feet that's set back from Middle Street. And next slide, please. And 345 feet setback from Middle Street. And again, our proposed lots are set back 286 and 278 feet. So they certainly aren't set back as far as these 4 examples on Middle Street. And so you certainly could say that these lots are not inconsistent with the other homes or some of the other homes on Middle Street. Next slide, please. So there was a discussion also at the end of our presentation about why, you know, why do we want a reduced frontage lot proposal, right? Why 3 lots when you could do 2 lots by right? Well, we wanted to do 3 lots, and you have a mechanism to allow that to happen by special permit. But what we could do with the property is we could subdivide the property. And I don't know that anybody wants you to subdivide the property, right? Wants us to subdivide the property. So let's see what that looks like. Next slide. So here's a 4-lot subdivision. We meet all the requirements for a 4-lot subdivision. You can see that the rear area is obviously more open space is taken up. You've got a road that has to be constructed. So you have all of that impervious surface. And I don't know that I would suggest that a subdivision is consistent with Middle Street, but we could do it through a subdivision requesting no waivers. The next slide. Here's a 5-lot subdivision. Again, we could do a 5-lot subdivision. This definitely takes up more of the land. It doesn't have the open space in the back as divided as we do on our proposed 3-lot A&R. If for some reason the wells and the septic systems didn't work out, we could also take our water from Stewart Street. There's a 8-inch water main that ends on Stewart Street. There's a fire hydrant there, and we could just pull the water from right over there, and we wouldn't have to worry about having the separation of the septic systems from the wells. So we could do that on either the 4-lot or the 5-lot subdivision, but we're pretty confident that we could also do a 5-lot subdivision. Again, more impervious surface, certainly not designed to be a low impact development. I think that you would all agree that this kind of design is not necessarily consistent with the rural nature of Middle Street, but it could be done. It's not what we're proposing, but I think it's important to see the alternatives that could be done with the subdivision approval. Next slide, please. So we then, I think that it was important to address some of the concerns of the neighbor across the street. Obviously, we're not going to be able to address all of them. One of them was the view from her house to the proposed new structure in the middle. But we engaged Howard Snyder, who is a landscape architect. I actually think he's a West Newbury resident, and asked him to do some landscaping for us along the street to show how we would be able to add some landscaping and clean up the front of the street, reuse the stone walls as I had suggested that we would do, where we do the openings from the last hearing. He's done that. He describes it as following the rhythm of the street and providing additional shade trees to reflect the character of the property. I'll show you where that is. He utilizes plants that are common to the area, and similar plant material, each of the entrances to show some uniformity there. So, Ben, if you could go to the next slide. And I have to say, you got your standard black line plan. So I asked Howard to color this so it would be easier to see and understand. So he adds 2 shade trees, the existing shade trees in that middle. It's a pretty good sized tree. Right now, as you look across the street from the resident that lives across the street and looks into it, she basically sees that tree, except for that her house sits a little bit higher and also it's deciduous. So obviously it loses its trees, its leaves. He's added 2 large trees on the other properties as well. And then he's got a couple of ornamental flowering trees on either end of the property. And then he has added hydrangeas and other similar shrubs around the entrances where the stone walls curve back. And he gives an example of what he's proposing those stone wall aprons to look like as well. And he included a plant material schedule. So we would say that if the board were going to approve this plan, that it would, the special permit would include a condition that the landscaping plan be followed as well, which is why we had it done. So with that, Mr. Chair, I think that we've addressed, well, I hope that we addressed some of the questions or most of the questions that came up the last meeting. And I'm going to turn it over to you now, and I'm happy to answer any additional questions. As I indicated before, Eric is on this call. I do want to make one more mention that, and it's particularly evident on Howard's colored plan. He used some different shades of green at the back, but you can see how that open space in the back is retained and left natural. And of course, there is a boundary that's put in at the back of the house lots pursuant to the Conservation Commission order of conditions as well. So I think it makes a nice separation between that wetlands in the back and the stream, and there's a trail towards the back versus where the houses are. So to that end, I'm happy to answer any further questions that the board may have.
Good. Thank you, Counselor. And for people who are in attendance tonight, what we're going to do here is we're going to first have the planning board members weigh in, and then we'll open it up to other people in attendance. You mentioned the trail easement or the trail that exists. Is there?
No, I didn't say anything about an easement. I said there's
Right.
a trail.
Right.
There, yeah.
My question to you was, were there any plans for an easement? And I guess the answer to that is no.
Yeah, I haven't talked to my client about that. I don't know what their thought is. It's on the ground, so it shows on the plan. It shows on both the plans, the site plan that we provided to you. I think somebody pointed it out. I don't know if it was Mr. Cronin or Mr. or Ted at the last meeting, but it does show up a little bit more in the color, and you can see it. I don't know, Ben, if you can blow that up or not.
No,
at the back.
Yeah, we can see
Okay,
where the
all right.
trail easement is towards the back of the lot there.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, forgive me if I throw the word easement in when I should, the existing trail.
Yeah,
And
there's an existing trail.
I assume that the existing trail, as it's being used now, people use it, then cross the field and end up on Middle Street. But that wouldn't be possible with the houses here unless they were to go to the left, unless there were a formal easement and it was along the left side of the lot.
Yeah, I think you're right. And again, I haven't spoken to my client about it. They do, how do they cross the stream right now? They just walk through it?
I don't know.
Yeah,
But I bet you we have members of the audience in attendance who would know.
yeah.
And although it's a little out of order, I can see that Deb Hamilton, who knows trails in this town, I'm gonna recognize her for a comment.
Thank you. Yeah, this is the first of my several questions about this lot. Yes, traditionally, there's a farm road that runs right down through the center. And as you can see, it then goes into the wooded wetland. There's also a stream that I'm not seeing on this plan,
Yeah,
but
it's on there.
is it in the dark green or the?
Right at the edge of the dark green.
See where it says stream?
Oh, yes, okay, and yes, it's shown as an intermittent stream, which it is. This is the headwaters of Kelly Brook, which is tributary to the Artichoke Reservoir and Newburyport's water supply. So there is a bridge, a wooden bridge that crosses the stream. And for, I don't know how much of the 120 years that the myopia hunt has hunted across West Newbury, but for many years, this has been a part of their route. And once you follow that woods path to the edge of this property, it crosses into another property that was, I think, owned by Rick Thurlow. And there's a shared driveway that goes out to Bachelor Street. Couple of jumps in the woods there from, traditional hunt route in there. And the trail continued up the hill straight out to Middle Street. So yes, it's a beautiful trail, and there is greenbelt parcels both on the west side of this parcel and slightly to the east. You have to cross the backyards of 1, 2, 3 people, or the old trail. There's an old farm road that went along
Well,
all the way out to Indian Hill Street. And
I tell you what, Deb, we're gonna come back to you. Thank you
Yeah,
for your input. I
that's
just
fine.
wanted to
Sure.
clarify.
Yep, that it's there.
And then Eric, if you could zoom back out so we could see the lot overall. I'd be interested to know what your client feels about some sort of an easement to allow the myopia club, if not an easement that would be open to the public all year round, maybe some sort of special consideration for the hunt, which I believe is twice a year. But I'm going to stop talking now and recognize the other planning board members here. Anne?
Yeah, I'd love to go first. I've got a few sort of catch-up items from last week. One has to do with contiguous buildable area, which in the case of in the case of the underlying zoning requires 75% of the lot area to be contiguous and buildable, which in this case means non-wetlands, non-20% slope. It's all in the zoning table. For reduced frontage lots, it's still 75% of the required area. So in this case, it would be 75% of 40,000, which is 30,000 for lot 2. And then 75% of the other two would be 60,000 square feet for lots 1 and 3. The chart on your sheet C4 does not give square footages of the CBA. It tells us that the underlying zoning requires 75%, but the actual calculation is not there. And I think typically, other board members can correct me if I'm wrong, we like to see it graphically displayed with some kind of a layer that's showing us that you have that square footage as contiguous and buildable. So I think that's a deficiency in the plans. I don't know if the chair would agree with me or other members, but.
Yeah, Eric, either you, I
Missing
could
it?
take control of the screen, or you could switch over
Yeah,
to.
Ben, can you pull the, can you
Am I
pull the
missing it? Is it on there, Lisa?
I don't know that it's on there. It may be a good point, and I'm positive that Eric's team has addressed this issue because we talked about it, but.
But we need to see it, so. or
Yeah,
we-
no, I
It's
don't.
sheet C4,
It's
the
C4, it's
grading and
50.
drainage plan.
Yeah, it's got a, maybe they all have a zoning table. I just happen to have the full size thing sitting here on my desk, but.
I tell you what,
C4.
I'll jump in to share here real quick, Eric, and
Okay.
then you can take it back later.
Yeah, so if you zoom in on those tables, it says required 75%, but then there are these sort of outlandish percentage numbers instead of CBA is the third item down. There, I think there should be square footage numbers, certainly for the proposed lots. So that just needs to be
So
clarified.
you want this square footage in addition to the percentage, Anne, is that what you're
But we
looking
know
at?
it has to be, yeah,
So
I mean,
the-
I think I'd like to see it graphically. And the square
Okay,
footage,
so-
yeah, if it needs to be 30 and 60 or whatever the numbers are, then we need to see that, yes, it's more than, it's 75% of 80, which, you know, needs to be at least 60, and it's 72 or whatever it is, but I think.
Oh, right, so he has the numbers on here,
Where,
right?
well, where's the, no, that's a percentage.
No, I
Um,
understand that. I understand the issue, right? He has the numbers on here, but not the percentage. And I'm looking at the CBA for lot 2, and that's a typo, obviously, 795%. So,
Okay, but that's confusing to me. Yeah, I think to see it expressed in square feet would be more helpful.
I understand.
And also
And-
maybe
and then
graphically
the-
so that we can see that it's contiguous and you know, isn't on the slopes and isn't, I'd like to see how they derived it.
Sure.
Yeah,
would be great.
and I agree with Ann here when, you know, and you've got that, your presentation with the colored drawing, you know, if we could see what is the contiguous and buildable area, maybe with a colored overlay here,
Yeah, just
That
some
would
kind of
be-
a layer.
it
Yeah,
would
we
be
can-
reassuring.
Yeah, I
sure
don't
they
know if
have
we'll
it.
do color, but we can do an overlay. Eric, do you want to address this at all, or you're okay with providing that?
Yeah, we're okay with providing that. We can add another table or adjust the tables, and I understand you want it shaded so you can see exactly what we're saying.
Yes, I'd love to see that.
We can do
The
that.
proof, the proof
Yeah.
on the land. Thank you. That's helpful. Another thing I wanted to point out too, I know it was mentioned in the last hearing that because the parcel slopes away, that the two houses that are set farther back would be less visible from the street. And that's generally the case. But I think it's also worth pointing out to folks who are not studying the drawings as carefully as we all are, that because of the changes to the grading in the back, for instance, the natural grading from the front to the back is maybe 20 feet from house lot to house lot. But because of it being brought up in the back for those septics and stuff, the benefit of that slope is a little bit lost, that the first floor elevations of the rear houses are about 14 feet different than the front house. They're not the 20 feet that you might think. So yes, that will happen some, but it's not going to be quite as dramatic as you might think, standing there looking at it. Is this a good time, Ray, for me to talk about that Indian Hill Street project? Because it's sort of illustrative of some conceptual things I wanted to.
Sure.
So if we could look at that again, I don't know which sheet that
Sure,
was.
that's Ben.
Yeah,
Could Ben share his screen? Yeah.
the one that
Absolutely.
shows the reduced frontage. Yeah, where was it?
That's it,
Yeah,
Ben, right
well,
there.
that one, yeah, oh, that one's good. Or the other one with the numbers, with the frontages up. Thank you, that's great. So I wanted to point out a few differences. I remember when this project was approved, I think Brian and Ray may have even been on that.
I don't think I was on this one.
I
This,
was, yes.
This was Peter Creighton's project.
Right.
There are some specific differences here. Let me find my notes so I don't leave out any of my specific differences. The first one is that this is a project that includes 5 lots, not 3. 2 are reduced frontage. So 2 out of 5 is 40% of the lots in the project are reduced. And in the case of the proposal that's before us, it's 2 out of 3 or 67%. So
Yep.
it's a different impact in terms of the numbers. Another thing is that rather than 5 driveway openings, if you look at the town assessor's drawing or a MyMap drawing, this
Eric,
project includes 2 common driveways, one serving 2 houses and one serving 3 houses.
Eric, go ahead and
So-
stop sharing a sec. I want to flip up the my map here real quick.
I'll wait till we see it to make the point here. So that the again, the impact on the street is, yes, there may be 5 house lots, but again, there are 2 street openings, whereas the proposal before us has 3 street openings for 3 houses. So that's another difference in the impact. The third one that I think is significant, because we're not talking only about direct abutters, although they arguably have the greatest impact, but it's also streetscape and the general feel of things. Across from this subject parcel here, Ray, if you know, from the Indian Hill Street parcel, sorry.
Yeah,
go
you've
back
got
to
the open
Peter's-
fields here.
No, if you go
No.
back to the Indian Hill Street parcel with the 5
There.
lots,
Yeah.
you've got 1, 2, so if you zoom in, yeah, parcel 12 and parcel 13A are both owned by the town. They're protected as open space now, I do believe. Then these next 2, which are called 15A and 13, perhaps,
Yes.
they derive frontage on Indian Hill Street, but the houses built there are accessed from Kellybrook Lane. That's part of the Kellybrook subdivision. So yes, there are 2 houses, but they are very far away. So arguably, I mean, demonstrably, there are no neighbors right across the street from this project. So that's another thing that's quite different about it. So I don't think it's that useful in shoring up the case for the subject, the proposal that you're putting before us. I think it proves some other points, and I think it tells us something about the use of reduced frontage in certain cases, and this is why reduced frontage is a special permit. It's a discretionary permit. In a case where it has to do with the expectation of people in town. The expectation, as I think Ms. Gorelnik and the other abutter to the west, whose name I don't remember, both mentioned, the expectation for a 400-ish foot parcel is, I don't own it. Someday it's very likely there'll be 2 houses there.
Right.
The expectation for, let's call it a 545 foot frontage is, gee, they don't really have enough for 3, but they might well go for a special permit and get a 2, and a 145. And that would be something that in the, circumstances we're right, the board might look quite favorably on. I don't think the fact that the special permit bylaw mentions a maximum of 2 abutting special reduced frontage lots, there's no target meaning to that number 2. You might have a 20 lot subdivision somewhere, let's say, and you had several reduced frontage lots in it, and the only significance of the 2 is that you can't have them abutting. It's a cap on abutting lots. It's not a cap on a total,
Right.
and it's also not a target. So one shouldn't think that 400 really means, and that's the other thing that's not a target, is the 100 feet is not a target in the special permit. It's a minimum.
Right.
So you could have we've done these before where there was, I don't know, where somebody had 148 feet instead of 150. Those are the kinds of situations. Again, going down to 100, yes, could be permitted in some cases, but I don't think, I want other townspeople, especially, and Ted too, who will listen to this, to understand that the 100 foot minimum doesn't mean that 100 is going to get you over the finish line every time. And that's where the discretion comes in.
Right, but I think, I do, but you also, and I don't disagree with that, it's a discretionary permit without question, right? But there are criteria, And this neighborhood, let's call it this neighborhood, is different also than the Indian Hill neighborhood and the land that you just described across the street, right? So in this neighborhood, there are more houses, generally speaking, than that land that you just described. So it wouldn't be out of character to have 3 houses on this parcel. If you look at Stewart Street, across the street, and then just down to the left, you'll have to forgive my directions because I don't have a north arrow
Okay.
there, but to the left,
Mhm.
it is a, and I don't want to use the term dense because I think that's an unfair description of the neighborhoods in West Newbury, but there are more houses per acre, if you will, in this general vicinity than there are along the Indian Hill area and across the street that you described, right? So I don't think entirely that
No, I
you
don't think
only-
so. There's only that going from, if you go to the left, as you say, there's only that one reduced frontage lot. That was one of
No,
the
I'm
ones
not
you-
talking about the
example you-
I'm not talking about reduced front.
But
If you
but the density here is it's a frontage thing. So in fact, along Stewart Street, I mean, along Middle Street, I think most of those houses do have conforming frontage.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
look at the, if you look along Middle Street as well as along Stewart Street is my point. The neighborhood isn't just Middle Street to the left. The neighborhood is Middle Street to the left, Middle Street to the right, and Stewart Street. This is right at the apex of Stewart Street and Middle Street.
But again,
There are
I don't
just
think-
more houses in the area than there are along the Indian Hill area that you just described.
well, I haven't counted them, but I think along Middle Street, almost all of those houses have conforming frontage, and that's really what we're
I
talking.
believe they all do, other than the reduced frontage lot.
That one reduced frontage lot
That was done 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah, that was done a long time ago. So I stick by my frontage.
And that may be,
Guns.
and then the question is, what's the purpose of the reduced frontage special permit? And do you prefer to have a 4 or 5 lot subdivision on this parcel?
Well, but that's saber rattling. I'm sorry.
But it's a fact, Anne, though, right? I mean, it's a fact that it can happen, which is why we showed it. So, and that, if there are no waivers, that's it. It's a subdivision.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Well, yeah.
and if you made most of your major
I
points.
think I have. Yes, I think someone else needs to take a turn now.
Okay, Brian?
Yeah, I particularly liked Ann's commentary on the Indian Hill package. I think that was very telling to describe.
Oh, and wait,
The-
Brown,
ahead.
one more thing. The other thing in that Indian Hill thing is that there's a trail easement along the back that goes across the back of every single lot.
Yep.
Anyway, that's the last thing.
Yeah,
Anyway,
we were very.
you remember.
It was a while ago.
Yeah, but I
Um,
remember it.
But yeah, we were pleased, and I think we're particularly pleased to do that there because of the town had open parcels across the street, and there really wasn't a significant impact, and we received some what we think is significant benefit from that decision. But that was 20 years ago, 21 years ago. So
Yeah.
times change anyway. My only, I still certainly I have concerns about this. I still do, and it really has to do with there is that one reduced frontage lot that I'm going to say it's maybe within 500 feet plus or minus. I'm not. I didn't go out to measure.
Is that the R15-9B?
Yes.
Yes, and that's fine. I don't. Who knows why that was put in there or the thinking of the board at the time, but it certainly was. Before the town maybe it was, investing heavily in conserving land or whatnot. That's speculation, and frankly, that's probably not fair. But to me, having three now, there would be 3 reduced frontage lots within a 500 feet. I think that's an unfair burden for the rest of the residents on Middle Street from Indian Hill all the way to Batchelor Street. Every other house has conforming frontage, and I guess I'm trying to struggle with understanding why this is a something that the applicant feels they're entitled to. And because that's the tone and tenor of the discussion I'm hearing. I think that's kind of where I'm at the moment. I do also want to weigh in, and Ray, you'll probably talk about it. There still needs to be a peer review done if the applicant wants to proceed with this project, and that has not been done. So I'll leave it at that.
Counselor, any response there?
Yeah, I guess I have two responses. The applicant doesn't believe that they're entitled to it. The applicant believes that they have satisfied the criteria that is of the provision in your zoning bylaw that allows the applicant to apply. We're allowed to apply. We're allowed to show how we believe we provide the criteria.
Absolutely
really
agree with you. I agree. You're entitled to apply.
Right. And we're entitled to provide the information that we believe satisfies the criteria. You may disagree with that, but we can provide that information.
Okay.
I'm not really sure what you made a comment, and I'd like it if you could provide some details, because I'm not really sure what they are. What is the burden on the neighbors by having 3 single-family homes here, 2 of which include reduced frontage? What I'm trying to understand what the burden is. What is the burden?
I think other people living there have purchased land in an area with an exact amount of frontage on their properties. And here we're being asked to provide a benefit for an applicant that they didn't have an opportunity for. So yes, I think that place, whether that's the right terminology or not, I think that's something different than what the people who purchased homes in that area had as an expectation.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
All right.
Yeah.
And the peer review, we were happy to do a peer. What do you need to do a peer review? We've not said we wouldn't do a peer review. I didn't know you wanted a peer review. We would have started a peer review 4 weeks ago if you wanted a peer review. So
peer review is standard practice with these types of applications.
right, but we don't go out and ask for it for ourselves, with all due respect, right? So if you want us to do a peer review, then the board needs to tell us, and we'll give you a check for a peer review, right? That's, you have your peer review engineer. Who do you use?
Meridian.
Pardon me?
Meridian.
And
Meridian.
maybe, is that something that the planner usually does and that I had no idea about? Or does the
I think
board
this
authorize it?
I think this was filed before you came on board. And
Yeah,
that is more likely something that would have been discussed in a pre-application conference,
so
Okay.
you would
We
think,
had a pre-application conference.
not with the board.
We came in that there was before, so we filed, right? No, we didn't do like a pre-application,
You
right? We
you did not
filed.
appear before the board, Counselor.
Right, no, that's true, but just help me out with your process for a second, Mr. Murphy. I'm not trying to challenge you. So
That's fine.
we appeared, we were asked to come to a board meeting. We submitted everything. We were asked to come to a board meeting where the matter would be scheduled, I believe. And so we came to that meeting. Ben was at that meeting and it got scheduled. In fact, somebody said to him, I don't recall, I'll let Ben speak to this. Ben said, somebody said, this is going to take more than one meeting. That was a comment that was made. Ben was at your meeting.
Right, but that was after the application had been filed. That was not.
So I'm just
You
trying to
filed the
understand the process,
application.
and that's all.
You filed the application. Nobody came to talk about before you filed this.
Right, that was after it was filed. I remember that. Yeah.
We'll have the peer review done. We're happy to have a peer review done.
all right, but Tim,
Thanks, Ray. Picking up a little echo here from.
I think it's from that phone.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you. It's been a good discussion. Just a couple of things on the location of the house in the middle lot, the proposed lot in the middle.
Eric, you want to take over and bring up your screen again?
Thank you.
Video is on. Oh, there you go.
So the structure on, I'm sorry, is that lot 2 in the middle?
Yes.
Yes. There was some discussion about the location of that structure. Is there a proposal to set that setback from the street at a particular distance? I didn't see that. We talked about the landscape screening, and I do have a question about that too, but I thought there was going to be something about the setback from the street for that structure.
Yeah, I just jump in here, Tim,
ahead.
on that table to the left. It says, front setback required is 40 feet provided, or well, actually proposed 94.51.
Okay.
So it's not shown here on the plan, but it is shown in the zoning table.
Okay. And so the question that I then have then, Ray, is that a condition? That it would actually have to be put in that particular location, because there was some concern expressed by the neighbor who lives across the street about how close that was to their house and to Middle Street.
Right. We don't have a problem with a condition locating that structure in the place that is located on the plan 94 feet back at all. And that's one of the points we tried to make it the last time. I don't think we made it clear that it's almost 100 feet back. It's 94 feet back from the street. It's not right up against the front setback minimum.
Okay. Yeah, whether it's the 94 feet, but the 94 feet was chosen how? Just curious.
I'll ask Eric. I think it's in large part due to the septic in the rear, but
I see.
you can see do you see this? You see the fields there, so, or where they did the test pits, but I'm pretty sure that's it. Eric, do you want to address that?
Yeah, there were two things. It was the septic in the rear and also just to get it further off the road. So it wasn't right up against the front setback.
So in other words, it was pushed as far back from the road as you could while still citing the septic.
Pretty much, yes, yes.
Okay. The other question I had related to the landscape plan, I was just curious about what was being accomplished by that, because I know that that same neighbor, that's the person across the street, had expressed some concern about the screening. And so I do see some trees. It's about, what is it, 400 feet of frontage here,
Mhm.
Right,
approximately.
a little
Yeah.
over. Yep.
Yeah, so there's certainly some there. It's a little more scant than I thought it would be if we're really trying to
Sure.
screen that home, as I think someone had noted, that's perhaps at a higher elevation too. So, but there is a tree. Is that it? No,
Yeah,
there
that is
isn't.
that tree right there that's in the middle of lot 2. That's existing. It's a pretty good sized tree that's existing. And then he added some shrubbery and whatnot around the driveway. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think there's any reason why in the area between that tree and the driveway plantings, we could add some more plantings that get some height to it. I think, he was respecting the layout of the stone wall along there. But
Just so you know, everybody, that existing maple tree is the middle tree there, right next to the word street on Middle Street.
correct.
And on the other side of Middle Street, and just where it says street, on the other side is an existing abutter's home, which being an antique house, and as was the way when they built those houses, is very close to the street. I would
Right.
guess set back maybe 20 feet.
Right.
Right.
Less.
So I think to answer Mr. Cronin's question, yes, I'm certainly happy to talk to the applicant about adding some other deciduous trees that have some height to it in that area.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm not sure if this is the type of thing that have been picked up in the peer review, but that's, that I think would address some of the concerns I think that person had. as far as the view directly into the house, because Ray's absolutely right, that house is located very close to the street. And I believe it is set up a little bit higher, so it'd be looking.
Yeah,
directly at
I think that's correct.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Tim, did we get your major points there?
Yeah, just one other thing, I think we talked about it, Ray, but is the street, the trail easements. I just want to make sure I understand. So there's a, like, even when you look at the property today, as Deb indicated, there looks like a trail, but it's actually like a farm road that goes right down the middle of the property. There are, I guess, no other trails though, that cross the property. The only trail that is present is the one that goes onto the other Thurlow property, which is kind of behind this property. Sorry, I don't have the arrows here either on the compass.
Eric, can I ask you to give me the screen back?
Yeah, I don't see I think that, I don't want to speak for Ms. Hamilton, but it looks like the trail runs up along the side. I don't see anything down the middle, right?
Yes, you can see it there. It depended on where things were planted. When it was lilacs, it was a very clearly defined trail. The last couple of years, it has sort of blended into the whole landscape. They graded over it, but you can see, yeah, that's it right there.
Yeah. So Deb, on the perimeter there on the left, there's no trail there.
Along, no, and
Wet
that's
too.
the green belt section, and it is wet over, arguably on the property as well as the green belt parts.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's what.
I mean, I share the same concern that was expressed earlier. That's one of the, our sort of public policy missions in the town, not necessarily the planning board, but to preserve trails and trail access, including for equestrian use. And so,
Well, it's written right into our mission statement, actually.
Okay, very
To
good.
work towards a contiguous network of trails throughout town.
Yeah. Very good.
Along
Thanks, Ray.
with- Yep.
I think
yep.
that's it for me.
All right. So each planning board member here has had a chance to talk to the applicant. And
Mr. Chair, don't forget that I have this letter from the Board of Health, or I'm sorry, the Health Director.
Oh yeah, jump right in then.
Okay. So I received this email today. Is the Health Director here? He said he may be attending the meeting. I don't know if he wanted to speak up. This is from Paul Savigny. Is that how you pronounce his name?
Yep.
Hi, Katrina. Please share this information with the planning board members. I have reviewed the submitted plan for 0 Middle Street. The soils on the site were good, and the grading plan provided shows that there is adequate area to grade out the septic systems. I would not expect the Board of Health to have any problems in improving the septic systems for this project. The applicant has also filed a stormwater permit application. I've reviewed this application and will be sending the applicant some comments. Based on the submitted plan and overall site layout, managing the stormwater on these lots should be able to be accomplished easily.
Thank you,
That's it.
Katrina. And so it looks like Raisa Canafre has already guessed what I'm going to do next, and that's open this up to people in the town that want to address issues. And then it looked like Raisa disappeared. No, now she's down at the bottom and she's muted. Now she's back up at the top.
I'm here.
Hi.
Hello. You'd think I would be a little better with Zoom since I'm a teacher and I taught throughout COVID, but I guess I'm still I'm a little rusty.
I did too, and I'm rusty too. By the way, Raisa, just so you know and everybody else knows, we're actually required to have you state your address as well.
Yes, I am at 220 Middle Street in West Newbury.
Okay. And is that in this vicinity?
It is, yes. I received the abutters letter.
Okay, go right ahead.
So I kind of have some points, and I know as a teacher to try to get through them quickly so everybody can maintain their attention after a long day. So first I did just want to share that I'm beyond heartbroken to see more construction happening in town, specifically on this lot so close to my home. This is an area where I know not just myself, but many people have found peace, whether it be walking with their dogs. I personally have ridden my horses through there on multiple occasions and really enjoyed the peace and serenity that the trail offers over there. It's so important to have open space for our mental and physical health. So I just wanted to express my devastation. Although I know feelings don't necessarily take precedent over money nowadays, but I figured I'd mention that. I feel like losing this land is robbing future generations of the unique beauty that is West Newbury, and that is the feel of our street here on Middle Street. It definitely has a feel that is more rural, and with, you know, houses more developing and more houses and less frontage, I really feel like we're losing a big piece of that. I really wish I was born into generational wealth because I would just buy all the land. And then I went into teaching, so I'm not sure where my thinking was, but you know, I also am quite distraught over more wildlife losing, you know, their habitats. I think about oftentimes as I drive down Stewart Street when I come home from, you know, horseback riding, there's always deer, multiple birds. I think my dogs may have tried to chase a few turkeys, so I really my heart hurts for them. But I do know that this is happening. And I just wanted to voice that I do strongly oppose breaking the planning board's frontage ordinances for profit. I think that we have these frontage rules and regulations, laws, if you will, because we're trying to preserve the community's integrity and resources. I am another, you know, thing I think about is the strain on natural resources, whether it be the watershed, and I know that whether it's well water or pulling water from Stewart Street, I think the big picture for me is long-term, more building, more strain on natural resources. What is that going to do for our future? And, you know, I think about our neighboring communities are literally on fire right now. I mean, there's a fire in Georgetown. I have friends who have horses nearby there, and it's very frightening. So I just wanted to share that. With all that being said, my stance as, you know, a resident who lives within walking distance, that I hope that we can maintain our town's rules and regulations and try to preserve what we have now, because once it's gone, it's gone. So.
Thank you. Counselor,
Thank you.
any response on behalf of the applicant?
No, I don't. I mean, I appreciate the fact that folks think this is a beautiful area because it is. It's private property. The town has a bylaw. To my knowledge, there's no easements on this property right now for a trail. People are just using it. It seems to me, which they could stop right now. Like, it could be stopped right now without anything on there. So I hear everybody's concerns. I think that the proposal meets the requirements and maintains that rural character as you go down the street in any event, and is certainly consistent with the rest of the houses on Stewart Street and Middle Street in this area.
Okay, thank you. Would anybody else? Oh, I'm guessing. Oh, go ahead, Ann. You're muted though.
I just wondered about the chapter land. Have we determined whether that's the case here? Is this protected in some chapter land status right now?
I believe it is.
Is it chapter 61?
It's
only-
it's
I think it's on the-
listed under that.
I think it's on the list. So that's a whole thing that has to be dealt with.
Yeah, because the town has the right of first refusal.
Yeah.
Counselor, you must have thought about this.
Yeah, I'm doing the permitting on the property, Mr. Chair. I'm not the real estate attorney on it. But we did we did have this conversation last week, and it is not on my list. So I need to talk to the agent regarding that matter.
Okay, and just for the audience in general, I'm not saying this as a proponent or whatever, but just so everybody knows, Chapter 61 is basically a way for people that use land for agricultural purposes to have a tax break. And so they don't pay as much taxes as other people do on a per acre basis. When that land comes out of Chapter 61, when its purpose is changed from agricultural to another use, the town has the right of first refusal to buy that land. There's a procedure involved for doing that. If the town deems the land is worthy, and it primarily takes place through the Board of Selectmen, although all the other boards and everybody gets to weigh in on it, then there are different ways of financing such a parcel. Again, if it's deemed by the town through the procedures that have been set forth years ago, that the lot should be bought by the town. There's a whole mechanism for appraisal and determining the value of the lot, et cetera. Now I know, Deb, you wanted to weigh in. Go right ahead. Now, again, everybody, Deb Hamilton is an elected member of the planning board, but she has recused herself and now speaks only as a resident as anybody else would.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I also had a question whether it was Chapter 61, 61A, or 61B. 61B is recreation and requires less acreage than 61A, which I think requires 10 acres to be in agriculture. And Chapter 61 itself is woodlot, so that probably doesn't apply here.
Thank you for that clarification. Also, Deb, you need to state your address.
I live at 227 Middle Street, and I was a realtor for 40 years. I, in fact, was the listing broker of that parcel on Indian Hill Street that was that came up earlier, and have worked very hard to protect a lot of the land that was parts of large parcels. The Cawley parcel, we managed to get 22 acres into Greenbelt, and there's a trail that goes all the way out to Indian Hill Street, and I can get there from my house. My lot is, yeah, right there. Thank you. And I will point out that my map is a wonderful program, but it's a little bit in error here. This would suggest that the next piece east of me, just click over one right there, doesn't have conforming frontage. It in fact does. My lot originally had 400 feet of frontage, and I got two lots with 200 feet. And I agree with your thoughts that everything else in this neighborhood does conform. They all have 200 feet of frontage and conform with the zoning. I wondered about the size of the houses that are shown as the proposed houses on these lots. And bear in mind that any house in West Newbury can be a two-family. It appears to me that the little rectangular boxes that are shown on each lot suggest a far smaller house than what is likely to be built. I mean, if you look at the three houses that have been built further west on Middle Street, you know, they're huge. I don't know what the square footage is proposed for each of these, but they look like the size of my house, which is 1,800 square feet. I doubt very much that that would happen. And with our new ADU bylaw, conceivably you could build a two-family house and add a backyard cottage. So just something to bear in mind. In my view, you know, two houses here, although I agree with Reza that it is heartbreaking to lose any of this beautiful view shed that we have enjoyed for decades. But adding that third lot for just because it is possible to do doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. Can anybody answer Lisa or the engineers about the size footprint houses are being shown on the map, and am I right in thinking that they could be much larger?
Lisa, can I answer that?
Sure, go right ahead.
Yeah, no, they can't. We're showing, I think, 40 by 80-foot boxes, and that's as big as they can be for the stormwater management system that we have. So they're restricted by the ability of us to have a stormwater management system that works. So
Right.
they can't be bigger than what's there.
All right, well, that's encouraging. Oh, what was it? Calling somebody
Eric?
up. I
Can
might,
I jump in here, Eric,
Yeah.
with a question? So you got 40 by 80, so that's 3,200 square feet, and I assume that's impermeable roof area that leads to the stormwater calculations?
That's correct.
So if somebody were to do an ADU, which they can do by right, all across the state now, that would have to be contained within the building itself. You couldn't add a separate structure for that.
I don't know what the regulation is as far as separate structure, but if somebody built a smaller house, then they would have the ability to build a,
So the bottom line is that though the impermeable area per proposed lot, 3,200 is the maximum when it comes to roof area.
correct.
Gotcha. Thank you for that clarification.
Or you could go back and reapply for another stormwater permit.
Correct. That is true.
Yep, I get that. Very good. Deb,
Just- yeah,
I'm
just to follow up, one more thought, and that was Lisa's drawing showing the 4 and 5 lot subdivisions. I'm quite certain that you're not going to find a way to put in 4 or 5 septic systems and deal with stormwater management. I think the idea that this could be more intensely developed by putting in a road and creating a subdivision, I think is pretty far-fetched. Thank you.
Okay. I see Mike M, you've got your hand up there.
Yes, I think my answer was just Mike Marvel. I'm with 154 Bachelor Street. So the last comment was about the recharge for the 4 and 5 lot subdivision. If it's possible, it sounds like it's not possible.
Well, Mr. Chairman, can I speak to that?
He's muted.
Ray, you're on mute.
Go right ahead, Eric. Sorry.
Yeah, so we did that preliminarily. I disagree with the assertion that it's not feasible. I think we could make it work. Obviously it's a preliminary thing, so we haven't dug into the details, but we know what the soils are. We think we could make something work there.
Gotcha. All right, going back to you, Mike.
And for the 2 lot or 2 and 3 lot, there is a recharge system for those submitted?
Yeah, well, if I can jump in on Eric's behalf here, just in general around town, we have storm water management required of all developments, so that has to comply with state and laws, state
Okay.
laws on that. So.
Right. Thank you. I'm not crazy about the idea of the 3 lots.
Very good, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else care to say anything here? Any more questions for the applicant? Any statements of opinion? Seeing none, I'll roll it back to the planning board, see if anything has come up. So Anne, Brian, Tim, anything more? No, looks like everybody's okay there. All right, so let's be absolutely clear about what we're looking for, because I don't think we're ready to go ahead and vote on this now. It seems like we've got some open questions. Counselor, there's questions about how your client feels about some sort of trail easement. There's a question about the any chapter, any tax status of these lands. We get clarification on that. And then, you know, and here I appeal to my fellow planning board members because I guess I'm having senior moments more often these days, but when we have a peer review, I'm sort of used to seeing a peer review in other situations, I guess, with open space and all that kind of stuff, making sure that everything works. If we do a peer review on this, I want to be clear what it is we're looking for. And this would be to have a peer review before we take a vote. And I'm sure that one of the things in a peer review is to make sure that all the numbers are correct and, you know, contiguous area is contiguous area, frontage is the frontage and that sort of thing, confirming those numbers. But I had the feeling there might be something more that you were looking for, Brian and Ann. I just want to be clear so that we don't keep going back and forth.
Right. Yeah, no, it's a fairly standard review that Meridian performs on our special permits. And it's to comply with the town bylaws, to check the engineer's calculations and advise us of any actual or perceived deficiencies that should be corrected.
Yeah, and the reason why it didn't jump to mind for me is because, you know, have we always had peer reviews on something like a reduced frontage lot?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So I will be asking our peer reviewer to check that the application and plans conforms to our rules and regulations and our zoning. And
Yes.
because stormwater is being done by the Board of Health. And there is
Yeah.
no proposed construction here either. It's really just the creation of the lots, right? There's no common driveway.
Correct. I would say we're going to add the information that Ms. Bardine wants relative to the contiguous
Yes.
building area also.
Thank you.
Yeah, a plan where it's more evident, where we can actually see
Right.
it
Yep.
on the plan.
The
Yeah.
overlay.
And I think
Yeah.
did someone ask to place the structure not more than 94 feet back from the street?
No, I think
If we get to the point of conditions,
Okay.
we wouldn't want it to be less than X number of feet, whether it's 94, which is a very precise number, or something on the order of 90 feet or greater. But that would be language of the condition, which I would imagine we would be working out later.
And so could I ask, do you ask for a certain amount from the applicant for the peer review fees? Or do I get a quote and then come back to the applicant? And does that have to wait for another meeting? Or can you just instruct me to get a quote and to tell the applicant what the quote is?
Yeah, I have no problem with that. That's what we usually do.
Okay.
Meridian has done many of these,
Yeah.
and they'll be happy to give you a number, and you can pass for me, you pass it on, and the applicant can write a check or not write a check.
Great.
Good. There was something in my mind. Oh, this is not just for the reduced frontage. This is also with respect to scenic roads. We've had a landscape plan put forward with potential modification to provide more screening for the abutter across the way, across Middle Street. Planning board members, do you have any questions regarding scenic roads? Seeing none, I remind people that are in attendance that all the roads in town, except for 113, have been designated as scenic road, which means we take extra care with shade trees and stone walls. This project would interrupt stone walls. I know that the applicant has mentioned that the existing stone would be reused. at each of the driveway entrances. Is there anybody who wishes to make a statement about the scenic roads? Seeing none, that's very good. I think we should then, I propose that we leave the meeting open and schedule a date and time certain. And I'm wondering, Counselor, what you would be looking for. I would think, considering the peer review, that we would want to go to the first meeting in December. Is that what my colleagues think is appropriate here?
Got the 5th.
I think
No,
it's
it's the
the third.
third.
Or- I mean, we could do it for the 2nd November meeting, and then if the peer review weren't ready, we could move it then, but maybe that's just pushing it. I defer to
mean,
the chair.
Yeah, I think that that'd be fine. I can't speak to Meridian's work schedule and whatnot,
True.
but
This
you
is
know,
not a
it's-
huge lift, so.
it's not a big lift. You're right.
All right, so why don't we plan on 7:15 on Tuesday, the 19th of November?
Oh,
Does
And
Katrina,
then, yeah, and then
does
if we
that
have
look
to
like-
open it and continue, we'll open it and continue. That's, and we'll all know that's gonna happen.
Right.
We won't drag everybody out for that.
just in case, Counselor, the planets align here, and everything works, then it might be more expedient for the applicant. Or if you prefer, we can just wait until the first meeting in December.
Yeah, I actually have a conflict on the 19th.
Oh.
So if because this way, if there's any changes that the peer review wants to see on the plans, we can also get those done
Sure.
and submitted
Very good,
at the same time. So why don't we go to the 3rd?
Great, okay.
very good. Okay, so I move that we adjourn.
No, continue.
Good, we continue the meeting for Tuesday, December 3rd at 7:15.
Second.
So this under discussion, Katrina, does it look like that would work?
it
Or
would,
these-
and it would be via Zoom because you do have to have a place. A
Yes.
time, date, and place.
Oh, time, date, and place. Right, very good. Okay, yeah, so the place,
And if I could just, for efficiency's sake, Katrina, if you could just let me know or Ben know what you need, so we can get that moving with Meridian, and then Millennium can send over the files electronically.
Yeah, I'll start that tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
is there further discussion on the motion to continue this to the 3rd of December? Seeing none, all those in favor, Ray Cook, aye.
RD and I.
Tim Cronin,
Brian Murphy, aye. Sorry, Tim.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate your attendance
Thank
to this.
See you in a month.
See ya.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so going back to our agenda, we had the continued public hearing, which we've just done. We had subdivision the approval not required at 591 Main. We've talked about that and dealt with that. We have 125 River Road. We've got that.
Minutes.
So yeah, so that brings us to general business and minutes. And here, Katrina, I would, why don't you get those up and share your screen unless you want me to?
Oh, I don't know if I have them ready. You always share them on the screen?
Yep.
I
Yes.
didn't
Yep.
know that.
We've actually been pretty good about minutes.
Let's see.
We used to
About,
be 6
you
or
know,
8 months behind.
actually reading and weighing in. Oh, and yeah, for the record, Deb Hamilton's back as a voting member.
Okay,
I'm just scanning through the packet here.
They are in there. I
I'm
read
looking
them.
for the minutes.
River Road, appendices. Fresh stone, here we go. I can bring them up.
Okay.
All right, you're faster than I am. Oh, I did just find them,
Did you?
but they're, yeah, they look strange.
All right.
I
let's-
can try and share if you want.
Wait,
Well, here, let me see if I've got it. I should have opened it. Right now I'm opening it through my browser, but maybe it'll still work.
yeah,
Yeah, good.
Is that good? Can you read that?
Yeah.
dense.
So
Dense.
September 4th. Let's just check.
Mm-hmm.
And as is our wont, Katrina, now what we do is we kind of go page by page and ask if anybody has any corrections or input. So here's page 1. Any items?
Nope.
By the way, that's unusual, Katrina. Usually somebody finds a comma is missing.
Okay.
Yeah, we're hardcore.
Sections 2, 3, and 4.
I think in 3, just so I can break the streak here. I think it refers to regulations. I think that's actually the state law.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
It's not regulations.
Yeah, second line.
Yeah, because that's part of the problem. They haven't issued regulations or guidance.
Yeah, by the way, I just happened to, I had Sam come out because I had an open building permit. I always have an open building permit. And he signed off on that, but we were talking about this and he's still quite frustrated by ambiguities which haven't been resolved at the state level.
Mm-hmm.
And this is regarding the lithium battery storage?
No, ADU.
It's
Well,
the
Joint
ADU.
Club, it's, same thing with MBTA, all of them. They just never get around to kind of fixing any of the.
Yeah, or getting them to agree with each other.
So Katrina, to extend our minute, close reading of the bylaws, then sometimes they just get corrected as we're making the corrections and get saved. But since Ray's sharing this from his browser, I don't think you're going to be able to do that this time.
Oh,
So
I've got paper versions that I can.
exactly. Right.
Yeah, okay, so
Tim,
yes,
what's the change
getting
you
back
want?
to
I
the
think it's a couple of
task at hand.
references to regulations. See it in the 2nd line and then in the 4th line. So it should.
Just change it to
I got
laws.
it.
Yeah, the name of the law I think is the Affordable Homes Act.
Yes.
Okay.
Good
Okay.
catch. That's why it's good to have an attorney in the
Yeah, that's
planning.
right.
Absolutely.
That minutia.
Well, it's not,
Although
it's
at the
gigantic.
meeting, he may have called it regulations, and so it should stay put.
Ah,
Well,
No, he's very savvy. I don't know how regulations got in there.
and also for the record, the minutes don't have, the purpose of the minutes is to convey what was discussed and how it was discussed.
Right.
And,
Right.
and
not
we,
verbatim.
we could change,
Yep.
even if he did say regulation in the discussion, we could make that clarification
Right.
here to avoid a future problem.
okay.
Okay, points 4 and 5.
I think that's fine.
All right, I'll move to
Good.
approve these minutes as amended.
Second.
We have a second from Ms. Hamilton. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, Ray Cook, aye.
You know,
Brian Murphy, aye.
And Cronin, aye.
Deb Hamilton, aye.
By the way, do you guys remember, I vaguely remember that on Zoom meeting, we're required to state our name and then say aye as part of the thing.
we've been doing,
Yeah,
that's
you've
how
been
we're
doing it.
it.
I
So,
think that came from an actual requirement.
yeah, well,
We do it.
good little
Okay.
duties.
All right.
Roll call.
Moving on to the minutes of September 17th then. Just
Yes.
checking everybody was in attendance. Seems right. All right, page 1 then.
Nothing.
Yeah, this is the one we
0 Middle
scheduled the
Street
hearing.
is
Yeah.
a terrible address.
But that's what it is on the assessor's map because it doesn't have an address.
I'm just saying it would be great if we were to replace that with something more specific, but then
I
that's.
know. Well,
All
we
you
could
need
always
to
put
do
the,
is let them develop it and they'll get an address.
well, we could also, we could just put the parcel number. We'll put the parcel number in there if you think that's the, you know, the R.
Oh,
whatever it is.
yeah, that's a good idea.
I think that would be a better, 0 Middle Street slash
Yeah,
map
R
and.
16.
R,
something
R
or other, whatever.
16,
Just
23.
because for future reference,
Yep,
this
That's a good
gets
point,
really
yeah.
confusing if you go back to the 30-year-old.
R 15-79.
there you go.
Yeah, let's do that.
I assume you guys saw it when I switched screens here.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and now I'd like to switch back and somehow I can't.
Oh, jeez.
I'm sure you can.
There we go. Oh.
Yeah.
Is it back for you guys?
Yes.
We're good.
Good. So Katrina, you got that. We can still call it 0 Middle Street and then also, or slash,
Or paren or whatever, yeah.
yeah.
And that refers to map 15, parcel 79.
Yes.
Okay.
R 15. I don't know where the R came from, but,
Residential as opposed to.
oh, okay, there you go.
Yeah.
That's why it's good to have real estate agents as part of the planning board.
I'm glad I can contribute something.
You always do. You always do. Anything on the rest of the minutes here?
Nope.
No, that was a pretty brief one.
Move we accept them.
As amended, second?
Second,
Okay. All those in favor, Ray Cook, aye.
Brady and I.
Tim Cronin, aye.
Deb Hamilton, I.
Brian Murphy, aye.
All right then. Review of proposed battery energy storage system zoning bylaw and proposed changes to the existing accessory dwelling unit bylaw. I assume this is just a placeholder, Katrina?
Yes, I assume that you would want to schedule a date to talk about them after you had time to review them at home.
Well, we don't have
Well-
proposed changes to the ADU yet, do we?
They were
Sam sent us the
packet.
language.
Where did they?
Sam sent the stuff in the packet. The ADU bylaw looks identical to what we saw last time to me.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not sure what he changed in it.
Well, why don't we,
Maybe we should
why
get
don't
him
we go
to,
ahead and put this in as an agenda item for our next meeting?
Yeah.
yes.
So November 19th.
Mhm.
Yeah, I talked to Sam briefly again. It's the same thing with the battery energy storage system. It's like they need the state to issue a FAQ, but the state says, well, you guys figure it out.
So
Yeah.
should we perhaps be waiting until Sam provides us with more? We've already went through this thing and he said it's all up in the air still.
Let's go ahead and put this in for the next meeting's agenda, and then Katrina, we'll put it in as a placeholder now, and then if you would just contact Sam and see if he thinks there's something ready for us to review at that time. And if there's not, we can always punt it to another time.
Just keep moving it. Yeah.
Correspondence is always fun. Do we have any fun correspondence?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes, there is just one from another town, but I'm gonna oh, it's right there, isn't it? Okay, it's from the town of Newbury, Zoning Board of Appeals.
Yes, I'm looking at it here. Let me just flip it right up on my screen.
Don't tell me, Plum Island.
Oh,
Oh, no, it's for an ADU.
William
pool,
Hurley
yeah.
Way?
William Hurley Way. I don't know where that is.
I don't believe you. You know where everything is.
I'm gonna look it up.
A pool house with an accessory unit on the second floor. Oh, boy.
oh
Wow.
boy.
Wow.
Wow.
Sounding like quite the edifice.
Sounds like something you shouldn't click on if it shows up in your news feed.
No.
Interesting. Okay.
Gotta be in some new subdivision like that Pearson thing or something like that.
Or
I don't know.
Fatherland.
Yeah, those kinds of names are all in there.
Excuse me. Yep.
I guess it's just my fourth grade sense of humor, but something about pool house always makes me smile. I don't know.
You just like swimming.
Just, okay. And then town planner report. Here's a chance for you to catch us up on your exciting life as the town planner.
Well, thank you.
I'm sure you want to mention that you met the dogs.
I did. I got to meet both of them. Archie and what was the other one?
Tucker.
Tucker, yes.
And then I got
got to meet
scolded
them
because
twice.
I didn't bring them by Jen, and she was upset with me.
Uh-oh.
So we
So I
brought
went
them back.
I bought them the next day. But go ahead, I digress.
Okay, so the first thing I wanted to bring up is that I talked to the town manager. He would like the chairman of the planning board and maybe one other at most member to get together with him and Wendy Reed next week to talk about next steps for the MBTA zoning. And the preferred time would be Tuesday or Wednesday, 4:30-ish. Does that work with?
Yeah, and then the other thing I mentioned here is, let me just check. You said Tuesday or Wednesday of next week?
Yeah.
Yeah, Tuesday works. Wednesday would work if it were kind of late in the afternoon, because I've got a therapy dog thing at 1 o'clock. So the earliest it could be back would be like 3:30.
So they can't do it until 4 or 4:30.
So see, that would work with me. And then the other thing here, folks, is they're talking about, using Dodson and Flinker and how much money and that kind of stuff. So I don't know, Brian, you were part of a lot of that stuff when we were.
I'm happy. I'm actually available. I'll be back home this weekend. I'm available both those days.
Can I recruit you then to join in?
Happy to come and
am
listen.
I hearing that either day at 4:30 works for both of you?
It does for me either day.
Yeah. Maybe you just let us know. I'm open. I'm home. Yep.
I'd appreciate it. Thank you, Brian.
Sure. I'm glad they're thinking of it.
Oh yeah, yes, they are definitely thinking about it. And so, okay, so now I'm going on to the traffic impact study. I have finalized the proposal. Angus just gave me his edits this morning, but we're going to hold off on sending it out to a list of engineering firms until we meet next week so that we can make sure that everyone's on the same page with what we're looking for the traffic study. The fiscal impact study is already ongoing. So hopefully by the time we have our first public meeting in January or February, we will have the results of both of those. And again, those were, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I can do this now because we're in a planning board meeting and this is part of the agenda. Are those impact studies done for, full build out, even though it's incredibly unlikely, and then also at about half of that amount, which would be the more likely scenario?
So with the traffic impact study, we wrote the proposal that they would check with us, and we did put in what the likely build out would be.
Likely build out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering, it probably wouldn't add much effort at all to them to also analyze the full build out. They're gonna get a number of vehicles per dwelling unit, I'm sure.
Well, then that's exactly what we can talk about next week, because that's why we're holding off sending it out to get more input from you.
Good, and I bring it up now just to see if Ann, Tim, Deb, am I being silly about that, or?
No, that's a good point. Yep.
I agree with you. People will say, well, but that's not the real number. You're trying to, pull a fast one. I think having the full is good. And what we may see is that it doesn't terribly differ either. I think these are all
you could write that
in the real world.
It should just be written as an alternate. Provide an alternate price to do the full build out. The base proposal is for the realistic build out.
And Katrina, you weren't at the meetings, of course, but I recall people in town being very skeptical when we were saying, look, in reality, you're not going to make the numbers work if you go to the full 89 or whatever number, 87 or whatever the number is. And people were like, yeah, but they could, right? And to which the response is, well, I mean, it would be incredibly expensive, probably would never be done. And they're like, yeah, but it could be done. So there are people
I
in town.
did watch the video of that meeting.
Okay.
Dramatic.
So,
No, it's,
and
you did very well with them.
well, it wasn't me at the time. I think it was Brian. But yeah, I just think the reason why we're doing a lot of this extra work is because those topics were brought up, and it's readily apparent to everyone that there's a real concerns in town that need to be addressed.
Mhm. Yep. Sometimes it's a thankless task, but you're doing everything that you should be doing to answer all
Well,
the
for the
questions.
record and on behalf of my colleagues here, thank you, Katrina.
You aren't paid enough.
Well, but no, see, it's no longer thankless because
Thanks.
Nice.
Thanks.
The first thanks of 2024.
there you go. Yeah, Mark, you can put it in the minutes. I interrupted. Okay, so
Are
go
we
on.
done with that subject?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay. Another thing that I am working on is helping the stormwater group refine the revisions to the stormwater bylaw. And so we're going to be meeting, I think, next week on Wednesday. And I think what I've seen of the stormwater bylaw, I think I would suggest taking out a lot of it and putting it in the regulations. For instance, the definitions in the stormwater bylaw are based on state definitions, which change from time to time. You don't want to have to go back to town meeting and change this bylaw every time those definitions change. So put them in the regulations. Just put the bare minimum in the bylaw and have the bulk of it in the regulations, which can be changed easier by a vote of the Board of Health. Another thing that I'm not really doing much for the housing production plan, but we do expect to have the final draft soon from MVPC. Yeah, there is, in the Dodson Flinker account, there is like a little over 3,000, but next week we can talk about that. There are other funds we can be using to either hire back Dodson Flinker to help us with the citizen engagement with the MBTA zoning, or hire someone else. It's up to the board. And then there's just it's an announcement. There's a Route 113 corridor planning study meeting on the 14th from 6 to 8 in the town offices, first floor.
And is that with respect to the entire corridor or focusing primarily on Page School and Pipe Stave and all that?
It's the whole corridor.
Really? Wow.
They even have improvements down at the high school. And I don't know the streets yet. Maple Street comes in, that's your little town center, right?
Yes, that's me.
I don't know if, I forget who was there when I mentioned this, but they're talking about traffic calming in the town center. And I brought up to the select board that there are traditionally two town centers. And one of which is the training field, and the library is considered a town center.
Yeah.
In some of the old reports.
Yeah, with a nasty curve there.
And
Yes.
the old town hall.
Yes. There have been some high-speed traffic accidents at that nasty
Yes.
curve.
Yeah, I got hit there.
There is a lot of traffic on 113, trying to get out on it at, I'm getting there before 7 o'clock and there's a lot of traffic. One thing I didn't have on here, but I just started working on it today, is the town manager asked me, I had brought up the fact that we have not adopted a complete streets policy in West Newbury. I would say 85–90% of the towns and cities in Massachusetts have, because it opens a door to apply for a lot of grants through the Complete Streets program.
I love complete streets.
Do you?
I do, seriously.
When they're
I love it.
unfinished, it's horrible. Don't you have an unfinished road going to Georgetown?
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
is it called? The floating
Well,
road? thing?
That's
It
pretty well
doesn't show, no.
abandoned now.
It
Ash
doesn't,
floating
yeah,
road.
that's,
Yeah. Yeah, it is nice to have complete streets.
so the idea behind complete streets is that it's not just
Sharing,
for
yeah.
cars.
Right, it's
Right?
the
You're
sharing.
you're
Okay.
looking at the
Oh, I
whole
thought you were
trans-
joking. All right.
No, I'm not. So you're looking at pedestrian crossings, traffic
Oh.
calming.
Possibly equestrians.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because, 150 years ago, there were no cars on the road. The roads were meant for people walking, people in carts, people with horses, wagons, etc. And now when you think of it, it's, roads are really built just for cars. We've forgotten about people. And so, yeah, this is definitely a movement to include pedestrians, bicyclists, other forms of transportation on the road. And I will say, I know in West Newbury, it doesn't seem like there's a real need for sidewalks because you have beautiful country roads that you feel comfortable with your kids walking on them or biking on them. I live in Rowley, and it's funny, my husband grew up in Malden, and they rode their bikes everywhere. I rode my bike in Danvers too. And my kids didn't ride bikes. My girls didn't want a second bike after they had learned to ride their first bike because we didn't allow them anywhere. And we live in a subdivision off a country road, off Route 133 and off Linebrook Road, too dangerous to drive on. And it's a
yeah.
shame.
Well, I just along the topic, I don't want to drag things out, but I have, since I got here, it just strikes me as incredible that there isn't a safe way for a kid to go from paid school to the high school.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
So, I mean, there should, and it's difficult, the engineering would be difficult, but to have some sort of a sidewalk pedestrian way from paid school all the way to the high school, it's,
Yeah.
a lot of it, there is sidewalk for a lot of it. So it would be, you got this difficult stretch over here and a little bit over there, that sort of thing, but it can make a real difference.
But there will be a time where you wished you had the foresight to start putting sidewalks and setting aside the land on all your country roads. Because with more development and more
No.
development will
No.
come, it will
no,
come.
no.
More development means that cars are going faster. Then you're going to be putting yellow lines in the center of those roads to make them safer.
They're already
I've
there.
seen it
They already
happen.
do
They
that,
already got that.
unfortunately.
Yeah, and
Well,
it just makes
actually,
cars go faster.
when it comes to traffic calming, studies have shown that if you do not stripe your roads,
I agree.
people go slower.
Yeah.
And
I
so
agree.
this is also a decision. What happens is you bounce into common misconceptions, and you can run into a conflict within the town government itself about how to deal with the roads.
Just as an aside, my understanding is that the reason they're striped is it's a state requirement on Chapter 90 money.
Ah,
That's a Gary Bill or Burt Knowles.
Yes, there was a
Way
moment when
back.
that began. There didn't used to be lines, and then all of a sudden they were going crazy painting lines.
Yeah, and who knows if that's still the case, and it's now just practice. But I agree with you, Ray. We should get an update from who's the new
So the
DPW.
beginning of all of this is adopting a complete streets policy, which is just a lot of nice talk about this is what we want, and we want to make streets safe, and we will apply these policies to when we're making improvements, when we're getting grants, when we're doing sidewalks, etc. Unfortunately, it doesn't apply to state roads, and where you could use your pedestrian improvements the most is Route 113. So it doesn't apply to 113.
Oh,
But it could apply to areas such as Bachelor Street, going from 113 to the park so that there's a sidewalk along there. And there's other places where it could be used also. And so they thought it was worth adopting the policy. It's a feel-good policy anyway, and it's a good policy to have. And who knows, we may be able to get some grant funds out of it.
I'd
So
like to see a
another project
summary.
we're working on.
Can you forward some kind of a summary about this program? Because frankly, if it requires sidewalks, that's a non-starter for me.
Oh, it
yeah,
doesn't.
I wouldn't want to adopt it unless I agreed with the policies it was espousing.
yes. Of course,
So
and,
it-
and the other thing is for it to be meaningful. And by the way, places where they've implemented some of these policies, it's just, honest to God, it's beautiful. It's so much better. I'm ticked off at Newburyport because when they redid High Street, there were some opportunities there that would have been fantastic, and they've got the area, they could have done it. But I bet you nobody was pushing for it.
Well, they did some terrible bike lanes in Newburyport that stop and start and aren't in the right location and they're just
Exactly,
a nightmare.
exactly. And you know,
Horrible.
they've done this, people don't realize, people talk about the Netherlands and cycling in Denmark as well and how fantastic it is. And it is, but what people don't realize is just 30, 40 years ago, they were as car focused as we are.
Mhm.
Now there's a different culture there. And American car culture is deeply ingrained over
Yeah.
here. But still, the complete streets thing, they're doing it, they're paying attention in a lot of urban areas. I think there's places for it here in West Newbury. Um, it- and I don't think it means that you have to build the sidewalks or
No, it
anything.
doesn't.
It's sort of a master plan kind of concept, and yeah, it could lead to grants, which would be great.
and
Thank
that's.
you, Katrina. So that's your report?
Yes.
Very good, thank you. Administrative details, I don't know that we have any, do we?
I don't have any.
Other than Katrina, would you remind our associate member that we'd like them to participate on the Zero Middle Street business, but to do so, he has to review the tape,
Yep.
and he can only miss one meeting before the vote.
Do
Okay.
you still have to sign a affidavit? Is that still a requirement?
I don't know.
It's a good question.
We
Katrina, can you
should
check that?
check on
I
that.
I did have the members in Middleton sign that, and I think I did come across one in the computer file, so I'll
Okay,
grab
so I
that
should do that.
for Ann, and
Yeah, and for
that's it,
Ted.
right? Ann?
And Ted, if he does it, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think we want
want
Ted,
something in the file, yeah.
if at all possible, we want Ted's to weigh in and take a vote on this.
Oh, yeah, especially with a supermajority requirement, for sure.
Good, okay, so that's administrative details, placement of items for future planning board agendas. I think we've done that. I don't have any items not reasonably anticipated. Anybody else have an item not reasonably anticipated?
Nope.
All right, well then I'll move to adjourn at 8:58 PM.
Second,
All those in favor, Ray Cook, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
It's
Tim Cronin.
unanimous. And thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it.